In the grand throne room of the Zephyrian Empire, where crystalline walls stretched toward infinity and gravity itself bent to royal will, Princess Lyralii had seen 1,000 warriors kneel before her father's throne. She had witnessed the mightiest champions of a dozen star systems present their finest arms and armor, each piece worth more than entire planets. But never had she seen anything quite so unremarkable. The humans stood there in what could barely be called armor at all. Dull, gray metal plates that looked like they'd been hammered out in some primitive forge, connected by simple straps and buckles that wouldn't have impressed a child. No energy fields shimmered around him. No quantum matrices enhanced his strength. No graviton manipulators defied physics at his command. The princess barely suppressed a laugh as she leaned toward her father's ear. This is what the humans send us. A barbarian in scrap metal. But Emperor Valdris raised a hand for silence, his ancient eyes studying the human with an intensity that made Lyralii pause. There was something in her father's expression she'd never seen before, something that looked almost like recognition. And perhaps, just perhaps, fear. The human stepped forward, his primitive armor clanking with each movement, and spoke words that would echo through the galaxy for generations to come. Your Majesty, you asked for our finest warrior. I am Captain Marcus Chun of the Terran Defense Corps, and I accept your daughter's challenge. What happened next would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about humanity, about strength, and about what lay beneath the surface of the most dangerous species the universe had ever encountered. The Zephyrian court buzzed with whispered conversations as Captain Marcus Chun stood at attention in the center of the vast throne room. The chamber itself was a marvel of alien engineering, its walls composed of living crystal that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, responding to the emotional states of those within. Right now, those patterns swirled with colors Marcus had learned indicated amusement, curiosity, and more than a little disdain. Princess Lyralii descended from her position beside the throne, her movements fluid and graceful in the lower gravity of the royal chamber. She stood nearly 8 feet tall, as was typical for her species, her skin a pale blue that seemed to catch and reflect the crystal wall's glow. Her eyes, large and multifaceted like cut gems, studied Marcus with the kind of attention one might give to an interesting but ultimately harmless insect. So, she said, her voice carrying easily through the chamber's acoustic enhancement systems, this is humanity's champion. She gestured toward Marcus with one long, elegant finger. Tell me, Captain Chun, what makes you think that collection of metal scraps will protect you in single combat against a warrior of the Zephyrian Empire? Marcus remained silent, his eyes fixed on a point just above the princess's head. He had been briefed extensively on Zephyrian customs before this mission. Direct eye contact with royalty was considered either a challenge or an insult, depending on the context. Neither seemed appropriate at the moment. Emperor Valdris leaned forward on his throne, his own massive frame dwarfing even his daughter's impressive height. Where Lyralii was graceful and sharp-featured, the Emperor was built like a living mountain, his skin bearing the deep blue-black coloration that came with age among his people. Scars crisscrossed his visible skin, each one telling the story of battles fought across a dozen star systems during his rise to power. Speak, human, the Emperor commanded, his voice reverberating through the chamber with an authority that had commanded fleets and conquered worlds. My daughter has issued a challenge. It is your right to know the terms. Marcus finally allowed his gaze to meet the princess's, noting the slight widening of her multifaceted eyes. Good. Let her think him ignorant of protocol. It might prove useful later. I'm listening, Your Highness, he said simply. Princess Lyralii's lips curved into what Marcus had learned was the Zephyrian equivalent of a predatory smile. Single combat. No weapons beyond what we carry. No external assistance. The first to yield or fall unconscious loses. She paused, studying his reaction. The winner's people gain priority trading rights with the Zephyrian Empire for the next century. The loser's people become a protectorate state, subject to imperial oversight in all military and economic matters. Murmurs rippled through the assembled court. Marcus could see various alien dignitaries leaning toward each other, exchanging rapid conversations in languages his universal translator couldn't quite parse. He caught fragments, though, enough to understand that the stakes were higher than even he had expected. And if I refuse the challenge? Marcus asked. Then humanity is declared unworthy of independent status, and we proceed directly to protectorate classification, Emperor Valdris replied. Though I confess, Captain, I am curious why your leaders would send someone so. He gestured vaguely toward Marcus's armor. Modestly equipped, Marcus couldn't help but smile at that. If only they knew the truth about what lay beneath his unremarkable exterior. The Terran Defense Corps had been very specific in their instructions. Let them underestimate. Let them assume. The galaxy had made that mistake before, and humanity had risen to become one of the major powers in known space precisely because their enemies consistently misjudged them. My equipment serves its purpose, Your Majesty, Marcus replied. I accept the princess's challenge. The declaration sent a wave of excitement through the court. Several of the alien nobles began what Marcus recognized as the Zephyrian equivalent of placing bets, their musical language rising and falling as they debated odds and outcomes. Princess Lyralii stepped back, and Marcus got his first good look at what he would be facing. The princess wore armor that seemed to be made of the same living crystal as the chamber walls, each piece perfectly fitted to her form and glowing with internal energy. Micro force fields shimmered around the edges of each plate, and Marcus could see the subtle distortions in the air that indicated gravitational manipulation systems. She was armed with a weapon that looked like something between a sword and a lightning bolt, its blade composed of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix. The weapon hummed with barely contained power, and Marcus could feel the hair on his arms standing up from the electromagnetic field it generated. In contrast, Marcus carried a simple combat knife on his belt and what appeared to be a basic sidearm that wouldn't have looked out of place in a museum. His armor showed signs of wear and repair, patches where different metals had been welded together, scratches, and dents that spoke of hard use rather than ceremonial purpose. The combat will take place in the arena of trials, Emperor Valdris announced. Both combatants will have 1 hour to prepare. Princess Lyralii, as the challenger, you may choose the environmental parameters. The princess's smile widened. High gravity, triple standard, temperature at freezing, and perhaps, she paused, her gem-like eyes glittering with anticipation. Random gravitational fluctuations throughout the arena floor. Marcus nodded as if these conditions were perfectly reasonable, though internally he was rapidly recalculating his strategy. High gravity would slow him down, but it would affect the princess as well, despite her species' greater natural strength. The cold would be uncomfortable, but manageable with his suit's basic environmental systems. The gravitational fluctuations were the real problem, as they could easily disorient or destabilize a fighter at a critical moment. Acceptable, he said aloud. The Emperor gestured, and several court functionaries approached Marcus. They will escort you to the preparation chambers, Valdris explained. You will have access to basic maintenance equipment and food, should you require it. As Marcus was led from the throne room, he caught sight of Princess Lyralii speaking in low, urgent tones with a group of what appeared to be military advisors. Their body language suggested they were discussing tactics, likely ways to end the fight quickly and decisively. The preparation chamber turned out to be a simple but adequate space with basic furniture and what Marcus assumed were Zephyrian versions of maintenance tools. More importantly, it was private and likely not under direct surveillance, given the Empire's cultural emphasis on honorable combat. Marcus activated his suit's internal communication system, a capability so subtle that it would be nearly impossible to detect from outside. The signal was encrypted, compressed, and transmitted in microsecond bursts that would appear as simple electronic noise to most scanning systems. Command, this is Chun. Challenge accepted. Proceeding to Phase 2. The response came back immediately, encoded in a pattern of electromagnetic pulses that his suit's systems decoded automatically. Understood, Captain. Remember, we need them to see what they're really dealing with. The entire Alliance is watching this. Marcus closed the connection and began what appeared to be routine equipment maintenance. In reality, he was performing a series of subtle adjustments to his armor systems, activating capabilities that had been deliberately concealed during the initial inspection process. The Terran Defense Corps had been very clear about the mission parameters. This wasn't just about trading rights or political status. This was about establishing humanity's place in the galactic community once and for all. Too many species still saw humans as newcomers, upstarts who had stumbled into advanced technology through luck rather than skill. The Zephyrians were one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in known space. Their empire spanned dozens of star systems, and their military technology was among the most advanced the galaxy had ever seen. If humanity could prove themselves here against this opponent, it would send a message that would resonate across every civilized world. But that meant revealing capabilities that humanity had kept carefully hidden for over a decade. It meant showing the galaxy exactly what humans were capable of when they stopped pretending to be less than they were. Marcus completed his preparations and settled into a meditative posture, slowing his breathing and heart rate as he had been trained. The next hour would determine not just his own fate, but potentially the future of his entire species. Outside, he could hear the sounds of the arena being prepared, the deep thrumming of gravitational generators coming online, and the excited chatter of spectators from across the galaxy who had come to witness what many expected to be a quick and decisive demonstration of Zephyrian superiority. They were about to be very surprised. As the final minutes ticked away, Marcus ran through his mental checklist one more time. His suit's true capabilities were online and ready. His weapons, while appearing primitive, were loaded with ammunition that would function effectively even under the harsh conditions of the arena. Most importantly, his own training and enhancements were at peak readiness. The Zephyrians had made the same mistake that so many other species had made when dealing with humanity. They saw the surface, the deliberately crude appearance, the seemingly inferior technology, and they assumed that was all there was to see. They had no idea that humans had become masters of deception, experts at hiding their true capabilities until the moment of greatest impact. They didn't understand that what appeared to be primitive armor was actually a masterpiece of engineering, designed to look unremarkable while housing systems that would rival anything in the known galaxy. But, most importantly, they didn't understand what lay beneath the armor itself. They didn't know about the genetic modifications, the surgical enhancements, the training regimens that pushed human physiology far beyond its natural limits. They saw a baseline human in crude equipment and assumed they knew what they were dealing with. Marcus smiled grimly as a chime sounded, indicating that the preparation time was nearly over. Princess Lyralii was about to learn what humanity had been hiding from the galaxy, and through her, everyone else would learn as well. The door to his chamber chimed, and Marcus stood, settling his helmet into place with a soft click. The systems came online immediately, flooding his vision with tactical data, environmental readings, and target assessment information. It was time to show the galaxy what humans really were. The arena fell into a silence so complete that Marcus could hear the subtle hum of the gravitational generators and the whispered breathing of thousands of spectators. Princess Lyralii stood frozen, her energy blade wavering as she processed the impossible sight before her. The human who had appeared so crude and primitive moments before now stood revealed as something entirely different. His armor had transformed into a sleek, sophisticated system that pulsed with contained energy. Weapon ports along his arms hummed with barely restrained power, while his enhanced eyes tracked her every movement with mechanical precision. "This is impossible," she whispered, her voice carrying clearly in the crystalline chamber's acoustically perfect environment. "Our intelligence reports showed human technology lagging decades behind galactic standards. Your ships, your weapons, your equipment, everything we observed suggested a species still struggling to master basic energy manipulation." Marcus flexed his fingers, and the crowd gasped as monofilament claws extended from his gauntlets, each one capable of cutting through molecular bonds. "Your intelligence was accurate, Your Highness, about our public technology. What you were seeing was exactly what we wanted you to see." He took a step forward, and his armor's true capabilities became even more apparent. Anti-gravity generators built into his boots allowed him to move effortlessly despite the arena's crushing gravitational field. Energy shields flickered to life around vulnerable points, creating a defensive network that would challenge even Zephyrian weapons. Humans have been hiding their true capabilities for over 15 years, Marcus continued, his voice now carrying electronic enhancement that made it resonate with authority. Every ship your scouts observed, every weapon your diplomats cataloged, every technological demonstration we provided during trade negotiations was carefully designed to support a single, crucial deception. Princess Lyraliai's tactical mind raced through the implications. If humanity had been deliberately concealing advanced technology for over a decade, then every strategic assessment, every military calculation, every political decision made by the Zephyrian Empire regarding human space was based on false information. Why? She demanded, bringing both her weapons to bear as she tried to process this revelation. Why hide such capabilities? Advanced technology brings respect, trade opportunities, political influence. Why pretend to be less than you are? Marcus smiled, and there was something predatory in the expression. Because, Your Highness, we learned something very important when we first encountered galactic civilization. The strongest species don't survive because they're the most powerful. They survive because their enemies underestimate them until it's too late to matter. The crowd erupted in shocked conversations as the implications of his words sank in. Representatives from dozens of species began urgent consultations with their military and intelligence advisors. If humanity had been systematically deceiving the entire galactic community, what other assumptions needed to be reconsidered? Emperor Valdris leaned forward on his throne, his ancient eyes studying Marcus with new intensity. As one of the oldest beings in the galaxy, he had witnessed the rise and fall of numerous civilizations. He recognized the signs of a species that had been preparing for something significant. Continue the combat, the Emperor commanded, his voice cutting through the arena's chaos. We will learn more through action than words. Princess Lyraliai nodded grimly and launched herself forward with renewed determination. Her crystal armor blazed with energy as she activated systems that had been held in reserve, transforming her into a figure of devastating beauty and lethal capability. Her energy blade extended to twice its previous length, becoming a lance of contained plasma that could punch through starship hulls. Her neural disruptor overcharged, its beam wide enough to affect multiple targets simultaneously. Gravity manipulators in her armor allowed her to change direction in mid-flight, making her movement pattern completely unpredictable. Marcus met her assault with capabilities that defied everything the galaxy thought it knew about human limitations. His reaction speed was inhuman, enhanced by neural interfaces that processed information faster than biological systems should be able to manage. His strength, already considerable due to his genetic modifications, was amplified by his armor's servo systems to levels that allowed him to match Zephyrian physicality. The two combatants collided in the center of the arena with a sound like thunder, their weapons creating a light show that forced many spectators to shield their eyes. Energy discharges scorched the crystal floor, while gravitational distortions from their equipment created visible ripples in the air around them. Princess Lyraliai found herself fighting an opponent who seemed to anticipate her every move. Marcus's enhanced reflexes allowed him to counter attacks that should have been too fast for human perception, while his armor's defensive systems neutralized weapon effects that had proven devastating against other opponents. How is this possible? She gasped as Marcus deflected her plasma lance with a blade that somehow contained the energy without being destroyed. Your reaction times, your physical capabilities, they're beyond anything biological evolution could produce. Marcus grappled with her, his enhanced strength matching her natural Zephyrian power. At close range, she could see the full extent of his modifications. Neural interfaces have been seamlessly integrated into his nervous system. Synthetic muscle fibers woven through his natural musculature provided enhancement without bulk. His skeleton had been reinforced with materials that made it stronger than most starship hulls. Humans don't wait for evolution, Your Highness, he said, his voice steady despite the physical strain of their combat. We take control of our own development. Every human soldier, every ship captain, every diplomat you've encountered has been enhanced far beyond baseline capabilities. He demonstrated by activating a capability that should have been impossible. His armor's surface became semi-permeable, allowing his arms to extend beyond their normal reach while maintaining full strength and dexterity. The modification let him strike from angles that conventional anatomy couldn't achieve, forcing the princess to completely recalculate her defensive strategy. "Enhanced soldiers are not unknown," she replied, using her armor's flight systems to gain altitude and distance. Many species have experimented with genetic modification and cybernetic enhancement, but the scale you're describing would require resources and technology beyond what we've observed in human space. Marcus pursued her into the arena's upper reaches, his own flight systems revealing themselves as far more sophisticated than they had initially appeared. Instead of simple anti-gravity, he seemed to be manipulating local space-time to achieve movement that defied conventional physics. "That's because you haven't seen our real space," he said, catching her ankle and pulling her into a grapple that sent them both tumbling toward the arena floor. "Every human colony world, every research station, every industrial facility that your scouts have observed represents less than 30% of our actual territory. The impact of their landing created a crater in the crystal floor, spiderweb cracks spreading outward from the point of impact. Both fighters rolled apart and came up in defensive positions, their armor systems automatically checking for damage and making repairs. Princess Lyralii stared at Marcus in shock. If his claims were accurate, then humanity's true territorial holdings were more than 3 times larger than galactic intelligence had estimated. The resource base for such extensive enhancement programs would be enormous, requiring the output of dozens of star systems. Hidden colonies, she breathed, the tactical implications racing through her mind. You've been establishing secret territories throughout our region of space. How many? Where? Marcus's helmet retracted, revealing his enhanced features as he smiled grimly. Classified. But I can tell you that there are human facilities within striking distance of every major galactic civilization's home systems. We've been preparing for this day for a very long time. The crowd's reaction was volcanic. Representatives from every species present began urgent communications with their home governments, reporting a potential security crisis of unprecedented scale. If humanity had been secretly expanding throughout galactic space while maintaining the facade of a minor, technologically inferior civilization, the balance of power was completely different than anyone had realized. Emperor Valdris stood from his throne, his massive frame radiating authority as he studied the two combatants. "Human, your revelations carry implications that extend far beyond this arena. Are you prepared to present evidence of these claims?" Marcus nodded respectfully. "My orders are to reveal humanity's true capabilities if necessary to prevent our classification as a protectorate state, Your Majesty. The evidence is already being transmitted to your intelligence services." As if summoned by his words, a Zephyrian military advisor approached the Emperor's throne and handed him a data crystal. Valdris inserted it into a reader built into his throne, and his expression grew increasingly grave as he reviewed the contents. "Satellite reconnaissance confirms the existence of previously unknown human installations in 17 star systems," he announced, his voice carrying clearly through the arena. "Energy signatures consistent with industrial facilities, military bases, and population centers. Some appear to have been operational for over a decade." The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just been hiding advanced technology. They had been conducting a massive, coordinated deception that involved concealing entire civilizations' worth of territory and development. Princess Lyralii felt the certainty of her worldview crumbling around her. Everything the Zephyrian Empire knew about the galactic balance of power had just been revealed as carefully constructed fiction. Humanity wasn't an emerging species seeking recognition among established civilizations. They were a hidden superpower that had been watching, waiting, and preparing while everyone else dismissed them as insignificant. "Why now?" she demanded, her weapon still active, but her aggressive posture wavering. "Why reveal this now? You could have maintained the deception for years longer." Marcus reactivated his helmet, his enhanced features disappearing behind a faceplate that now displayed tactical information in patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Because, Your Highness, the galaxy is about to face a threat that requires honest cooperation between all civilized species. The time for deception is ending, whether we want it to or not." His armor began revealing additional capabilities, systems that seemed designed for threats far beyond conventional warfare. Deep space sensors, long-range communication arrays, and weapon systems that suggested preparation for conflicts on an interstellar scale. What threat? Emperor Valdris demanded, his voice cutting through the arena's chaos. Marcus turned toward the Imperial throne, his posture respectful, but his presence undeniably threatening. The kind that requires every advanced species in the galaxy to work together if we want to survive. The kind that makes our political differences irrelevant in the face of extinction. He gestured toward the star display on the arena's ceiling, where specific constellations seemed to pulse with ominous light. They're coming, Your Majesty. And when they arrive, the galaxy is going to need every advantage it can get. The arena fell into a silence that seemed to stretch across space itself. Emperor Valdris descended from his throne, his massive frame moving with the careful precision of a being who had commanded fleets across a dozen wars. Princess Lyralii lowered her weapons, her tactical mind racing through implications that extended far beyond their personal combat. "Explain," the Emperor commanded, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "What threat could possibly require the deception you described?" Marcus stood at attention, his armor's weapon systems powering down, but remaining visibly ready for immediate activation. "Your Majesty, 37 years ago, human deep space monitoring stations detected gravitational anomalies at the edge of explored space. The signatures were consistent with massive objects moving through hyperspace at velocities that exceeded anything in our technology databases." He gestured, and his armor projected a holographic display that filled the arena's center. The image showed star charts with trajectory lines that converged from deep space toward the galaxy's inhabited regions. The scale was staggering, showing movement patterns that spanned thousands of light years. Initial analysis suggested natural phenomena. Marcus continued. Rogue planets, dark matter fluctuations, gravitational waves from distant cosmic events. But the patterns were too regular, too purposeful. Something was moving through the void between galaxies, and it was heading directly toward our region of space. Princess Lyralii studied the holographic display with growing alarm. The trajectory lines showed multiple contact points scattered across known space, suggesting not a single massive object, but a coordinated fleet of unprecedented size. "How do you know these aren't natural phenomena?" she asked, her scientific training asserting itself despite the combat situation. "Deep space contains many objects and forces that we don't fully understand." Marcus's helmet retracted again, revealing his enhanced features as he met her gaze directly. "Because 15 years ago, they responded to our attempts at communication." The crowd's reaction was immediate and dramatic. Representatives from every major civilization began urgent consultations with their military advisors, while the Emperor himself leaned forward with intense interest. "You made contact?" Emperor Valdris demanded. "With what? Who are they?" Marcus nodded grimly. "We call them the Devourers, though their true name is unpronounceable in any known language. They're a spacefaring civilization that consumes entire galaxy clusters for resources. They strip mine solar systems, harvest biomass from entire worlds, and convert everything they encounter into materials for their expansion." The holographic display shifted, showing images that had been captured by human deep space reconnaissance missions. Massive constructs that dwarfed anything built by known civilizations moved through empty space like mechanical planets. Swarms of smaller craft surrounded each mothership, their design completely alien and utterly hostile in appearance. "The initial contact was accidental," Marcus explained. "One of our exploration vessels encountered the edge of their advanced scout network. The crew managed to transmit their findings before." He paused, his enhanced features showing genuine grief. "Before they were consumed." Princess Lyralii felt a chill that had nothing to do with the arena's environmental controls. "Consumed? You mean destroyed?" "I mean consumed," Marcus replied with grim emphasis. "Their technology doesn't just destroy. It breaks down matter at the molecular level and incorporates it into their own systems. The ship, the crew, even their thoughts and memories become part of the Devourer collective consciousness." The implications were horrifying beyond easy comprehension. a species that could literally consume other civilizations, incorporating not just their technology and resources, but their very beings into a collective entity that grew stronger with each conquest. Emperor Valdris processed this information with the tactical acumen that had made him one of the galaxy's most successful military commanders. How much time do we have? When will they arrive? Marcus's expression grew even more grave. Our current projections suggest first contact within 18 standard months. Their advanced scouts are already within our galaxy's outer regions, conducting reconnaissance and establishing forward staging areas. He gestured, and the holographic display zoomed in to show specific star systems at the galaxy's edge. Several showed signs of recent activity, gravitational disturbances, and energy signatures that didn't match any known technology. This is why humanity has been preparing in secret, Marcus continued. Every hidden colony, every enhanced soldier, every concealed technological advancement has been developed with this threat in mind. We knew that conventional military responses would be inadequate against an enemy of this scale. Princess Lyralii studied the tactical data with growing understanding. Humanity's deception hadn't been about gaining political advantage over existing civilizations. It had been about preparing for a war that would determine the survival of all known species. Why didn't you warn us? She demanded. Why continue the charade when you knew what was coming? Marcus's enhanced eyes met hers with an intensity that was almost painful to witness. Because, Your Highness, we needed to know which civilizations would be capable of meaningful cooperation when the truth was revealed. The galaxy is full of species that claim to value honor and cooperation, but how many would actually unite against a common threat when their own survival was at stake? The arena erupted in shocked conversations as representatives from various species realized they were being evaluated. Humanity hadn't just been hiding their capabilities. They had been conducting a comprehensive assessment of every major civilization's potential as an ally in the coming war. Emperor Valdris stood silent for long moments, his ancient mind processing information that would have overwhelmed younger beings. Finally, he spoke with the measured cadence of someone who had made decisions that affected entire star systems. What do you propose? How can the existing civilizations work with humanity to meet this threat? Marcus activated additional systems in his armor, revealing communication capabilities that connected him directly to human command authorities across the galaxy. My superiors are prepared to offer full technological sharing, joint military planning, and coordinated defense strategies. But only with civilizations that demonstrate they can set aside territorial ambitions and political differences for the duration of the crisis. He paused, studying the Emperor's expression carefully. The Zephyrian Empire's response to today's revelations will serve as a test case for how we proceed with other species. If your people can accept humanity as an equal partner despite our deception, we'll know that meaningful cooperation is possible. Princess Lyralii realized that the entire challenge, the arena combat, even her father's original demand for a demonstration of human capabilities had been carefully orchestrated. Humanity had maneuvered the Zephyrians into a position where they would have to make a public decision about cooperation versus conflict. You've been manipulating us, she said, but there was admiration rather than anger in her voice. This entire situation was designed to force a choice about cooperation. Marcus nodded respectfully. The coming war will require sacrifices and cooperation that most species have never attempted. We needed to know which civilizations would be capable of such unity when their survival depended on it. The holographic display shifted again, showing tactical projections of what a coordinated defense might look like. Human stealth technology, Zephyrian energy manipulation, Klaxon computational systems, and capabilities from dozens of other species integrated into a unified military response that could potentially challenge the Devourer advance. The mathematics are clear, Marcus explained. No single civilization, no matter how advanced, has the resources to defeat the Devourers alone. But, working together, pooling our technologies and capabilities, we might be able to mount an effective resistance. Emperor Valdris studied the projected battle plans with the expertise of someone who had commanded successful military campaigns across multiple star systems. The strategies were sound, but they required levels of cooperation and resource sharing that had never been achieved in recorded galactic history. What guarantees can you offer that humanity will honor such cooperation after the threat is resolved? The Emperor asked. History shows that wartime alliances often become post-war dominant structures. Marcus's response was immediate and definitive. None. You'll have to trust us, just as we're trusting you with information that could be used to destroy our hidden installations if you chose to betray us to other species. The honesty was shocking in its directness. Most diplomatic negotiations involve careful safeguards and elaborate treaty structures. Marcus was proposing an alliance based entirely on mutual trust and shared survival interests. Princess Lyralii found herself reassessing everything she thought she knew about human psychology. Their willingness to reveal critical vulnerabilities in pursuit of necessary cooperation suggested a species-wide commitment to the alliance that went far beyond typical political calculations. There's something else, Marcus added, his enhanced features showing genuine concern. The Devourers don't just consume civilizations randomly. They're attracted to regions of space with high concentrations of advanced technology and complex intelligence. Our galaxy's collection of diverse species and sophisticated technologies makes it an extremely attractive target. The implications were clear and terrifying. The galaxy's greatest strength, its diversity of advanced civilizations, had made it a priority target for an enemy that consumed such civilizations as a matter of course. How do we know you're telling the truth? Demanded a voice from the crowd. Marcus turned to see a representative of the synthetic collective, its mechanical form radiating skeptical analysis. These could be fabricated images designed to justify human expansion and dominance. Marcus smiled grimly and activated one final system in his armor. The holographic display shifted to show real-time, deep space sensor readings from human monitoring stations throughout the galaxy. The data streams were live, unedited, and absolutely terrifying in their implications. Because, he said quietly, they're already here. The sensor readings showed massive objects moving through hyperspace just beyond the galaxy's edge. Energy signatures that matched the archived data from humanity's first encounter with the Devourers. Fleet-scale formations that suggested the advance force was already positioning itself for initial strikes against Outer Rim territories. The arena fell silent as the reality of the situation settled over the gathered representatives. This wasn't a political maneuver or a strategic deception designed for human advantage. It was a desperate attempt to organize galactic civilization for a war that would determine whether any of them would survive the next decade. Emperor Valdris looked around the arena, his gaze taking in representatives from every major power in known space. When he spoke, his words carried the weight of a decision that would echo through galactic history. The challenge is concluded. Captain Marcus Chun has demonstrated capabilities that earn humanity full recognition as an equal civilization. Princess Lyralii, do you yield? The princess looked at Marcus, then at the terrifying sensor readings still displayed in the arena center. I yield to a greater enemy than either of us can face alone. The Emperor nodded solemnly. Then, let us discuss how the galaxy will prepare for war. 6 months after the arena combat that changed galactic history, the Crystal Palace of the Zephyrian Empire had been transformed into something unprecedented. The Command Center for United Galactic Defense Force. Representatives from 47 different civilizations worked side by side in chambers that had been hastily reconfigured to accommodate the diverse environmental needs of dozens of species. Captain Marcus Chun stood in what had once been the arena of trials, now converted into a massive tactical planning center. Holographic displays filled the space where he had faced Princess Lyralii, showing real-time tracking data of Devourer fleet movements as they advanced through the galaxy's outer systems. The enemy's progress was methodical and terrifying in its efficiency. Status report. Marcus requested, his enhanced voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems. Princess Lyralii, now wearing armor that combined Zephyrian crystal technology with human enhancement systems, approached with data that no one wanted to hear, but everyone needed to know. The Outer Rim colonies are gone. Kepler 442, Proxima Centauri b, and the entire Wolf 359 system were consumed in the past 72 hours. The holographic display shifted to show the affected systems, or rather, what remained of them. Where thriving colonies had existed just days before, there was now only empty space. The Devourers hadn't just destroyed the worlds. They had literally unmade them, breaking down every molecule and incorporating the materials into their ever-expanding fleet. Casualty estimates? Asked General Thax, the Klaxon military commander whose insectoid features made his expressions unreadable to most species, but whose tactical genius had proven invaluable in planning their defense. Complete, Lyralii replied grimly. 17 million beings across all species. They managed to transmit evacuation warnings before the communications blackout, but there wasn't enough time for meaningful civilian rescue operations. Marcus nodded, his enhanced features showing the strain of command decisions that affected entire civilizations. The past 6 months have been a frantic race to organize galactic civilization for a war unlike any in recorded history. The process had required compromises, sacrifices, and leaps of faith that would have been impossible under normal circumstances. The integration of human and alien technologies had proceeded at a pace that defied conventional engineering wisdom. Zephyrian energy manipulation systems enhanced human stealth technology. Klaxon computational networks coordinated logistics across multiple star systems. Even the reclusive ethereal consensus had contributed their advanced sensors to the early warning networks that tracked Devourer movements. What's the status of the fortress worlds? Marcus asked, referring to the hastily fortified systems that represented their primary defensive strategy. Admiral Chun stepped forward, her similarities to Marcus extending beyond their shared surname. She was his genetic sister, one of dozens of enhanced humans who had been revealed when humanity dropped its pretense of being a primitive species. 17 systems are now fully fortified with integrated defense networks. Combined human-Zephyrian shield technologies, Klaxon automated defense platforms, and synthetic collective predictive combat algorithms. The Fortress World strategy represented the greatest military collaboration in galactic history. Each fortified system combined the best technologies and tactics from every allied civilization, creating defensive positions that could theoretically withstand even Devourer assault fleets. Theoretically, sir, interrupted Lieutenant Torres, a young human officer whose cybernetic implants allowed her to interface directly with the command center's information networks. We're receiving transmission data from the Advanced Scout Network. The Devourers have changed their approach vectors. The tactical display shifted to show new trajectory lines that sent a chill through every being in the chamber. Instead of continuing their methodical advance through the outer rim, the Devourer fleets were converging on a single target, the Sol System, humanity's original homeworld. They know, Marcus said quietly. Somehow, they've identified Earth as the coordination center for our resistance. Princess Lyralii studied the tactical data with growing alarm. If they take out Earth and your primary command structures, the Alliance will lose its central coordination. Without human integration technology, our combined systems will lose most of their effectiveness. The Princess had become Marcus's primary liaison with the Zephyrian military, a role that had evolved far beyond its original diplomatic purpose. The past months of working together had revealed capabilities and characteristics in both species that had surprised even their closest allies. Evacuation protocols? Asked Dr. Yith, the ethereal consensus representative whose gaseous form swirled with patterns that indicated extreme agitation. Surely the human command structure can be relocated to more defensible positions. Marcus shook his head grimly. Earth isn't just our command center. It's our symbol. Every human colony, every enhanced soldier, every secret installation we've revealed draws its inspiration from the idea that we're defending our origin world. If we abandon Earth, we lose more than a planet. We lose the will to fight. The tactical implications were clear and terrifying. The Devourers had somehow identified the psychological weakness of the human command structure. By threatening Earth specifically, they were forcing a confrontation under the worst possible circumstances. Then, we make our stand there, declared Emperor Valderus, his massive frame dominating even the enlarged chamber as he entered with a contingent of his personal guard. If Earth falls, the Alliance falls. If the Alliance falls, every world in the galaxy falls. The choice is clear. The Emperor's decision carried immediate weight. As the most powerful single leader in the Galactic Alliance, his commitment to defending Earth would automatically involve the full strength of the Zephyrian Empire's military forces. With respect, Your Majesty, Marcus said carefully, Earth's defensive installations are formidable, but they were designed to coordinate the Alliance, not to withstand a full-scale Devourer assault. We estimate they'll bring at least 30 motherships and support fleets that number in the millions. The numbers were staggering beyond easy comprehension. Each Devourer mothership was larger than most space stations, armed with weapons that could crack planets, and protected by technologies that seemed to violate known physics. The support fleets consisted of smaller vessels that were individually more powerful than most species' primary warships. Princess Lyralii activated her own tactical systems, her armor interfacing with the chamber's computers to display defensive projections. What if we don't try to stop them at Earth? What if we let them come, and then cut off their retreat? The strategy she outlined was audacious and terrifying in equal measure. Instead of trying to prevent the Devourers from reaching Earth, they would allow the enemy fleet to commit to the assault, then use their combined technologies to trap the entire force in the Sol system. A killing field. General Thax clicked approvingly, his mandibles creating the klaxon equivalent of a predatory smile. Force them to commit their full strength to a single location, then eliminate their ability to escape or receive reinforcement. Admiral Chun ran rapid calculations through her neural interfaces. It's possible. Human stealth technology could position Zephyrian strike fleets at the system's hyperspace exit points. Klaxon computational systems could coordinate timing across multiple attack vectors. But the risks are enormous, Marcus agreed. If the plan fails, we lose everything. Earth, the Alliance command structure, and most of our combined military strength in a single engagement. Dr. Yitha's gaseous form swirled with patterns that indicated deep contemplation. But if it succeeds, we eliminate the Devourer advance force and gain access to their technology for reverse engineering. The intelligence value alone could shift the entire balance of the war. The chamber fell silent as the implications of the proposed strategy settled over the assembled commanders. They were discussing a battle plan that would either save galactic civilization or ensure its complete destruction. There would be no middle ground, no partial victories or strategic retreats. Emperor Valdris studied the tactical projections with the experience of someone who had made similar decisions across dozens of wars. Captain Chun, this plan requires absolute trust between our species. If even one element fails or betrays the others, the entire strategy collapses. Marcus nodded solemnly. Yes, Your Majesty. We're asking every allied civilization to risk their entire military capability on a single coordinated strike. The level of cooperation required has never been achieved in galactic history. But it's our only chance, Princess Lyralii added, her multifaceted eyes reflecting the tactical displays around them. Conservative defensive strategies will only delay our defeat. The Devourers grow stronger with each world they consume. We need to stop them decisively, or we'll face an even larger force when they return. The princess had become more than just a liaison. She had proven herself to be one of the Alliance's most capable strategic thinkers. Her ability to integrate different species' tactical approaches had made her invaluable in planning operations that required unprecedented cooperation. Time frame? Asked General Thax, his compound eyes already calculating logistics requirements. Lieutenant Torres consulted her neural interfaces. Devourer fleets will reach the outer edge of the Sol system in approximately 72 standard hours. If we're going to implement this strategy, we need to begin fleet movements within the next 12 hours. The deadline was impossibly tight for an operation of such scale and complexity. Coordinating the military forces of 47 different civilizations across interstellar distances normally required weeks of preparation. They were being asked to do it in less than 3 days. What do you need from the Zephyrian Empire? Emperor Valdris asked, his tone indicating that the decision had already been made. Marcus felt a moment of profound gratitude for the Emperor's trust. 6 months ago, they had been strangers from different civilizations, brought together by political necessity. Now, they were allies preparing to risk everything on a strategy that required absolute faith in each other's capabilities and intentions. Your fastest strike fleets, equipped with our integrated shield and stealth technology. They'll need to reach the Sol system's hyperspace exit points before the Devourer advance force arrives. Done, the Emperor replied without hesitation. Princess Lyralii will command the Zephyrian contingent. Her experience with human integration technology makes her the logical choice for coordinating our forces with your battle plan. Princess Lyralii bowed formally to her father, then turned to Marcus with an expression that combined determination and something that might have been affection. "We come a long way from that arena combat, Captain." Marcus smiled, his enhanced features showing genuine warmth despite the desperate circumstances. "We have indeed, Your Highness. Though I suspect the real test of our partnership is just beginning." As the assembled commanders began implementing what would become known as the Battle of Sol, none of them could know that they were about to participate in the most significant military engagement in galactic history. The outcome would determine not just the survival of their individual species, but the future evolution of civilization itself. The galaxy was about to discover what could be achieved when dozens of advanced civilizations set aside their differences and fought as one. The Devourers were about to learn why underestimating the unity of diverse species was a mistake that even they could not afford to make. In the depths of space, massive fleets began moving toward a final confrontation that would reshape the cosmos forever. And at the center of it all, the alliance that had begun with a human captain removing his primitive armor to reveal what lay beneath had grown into something that might just be powerful enough to preserve life itself in a universe that had suddenly become far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The real war was about to begin.